Trump released a giant statement, which was awesome, talking about how the world is on fire, how useless this administration has been, how literally nobody's in charge right now, how when he was president, Iran was in total check. There were no wars in the Middle East, in Europe, and anywhere. And so he also mentioned how it's no surprise that Iran desperately wants Kamala to be president because they know that when she's in power, they can take advantage of America and everyone else. He was absolutely right to say it. Absolutely right.
Totally right to say it. And then you see video of Biden, I think it was yesterday, they're asking him about, what about the hurricane victims? We don't have any left. We don't have any money left. I'm going to have to ask the American people for more money. Why? It's like, because you gave so much money to these jackholes who are doing this and you gave so much money to Ukraine. I mean, it's like, this is why they keep sucking money off the American taxpayer. I mean, everybody should be outraged about this. Everybody. Yeah. And then people will be like, this is none of my business. Like what's happening in Israel and Iran, it's none of my business. Like you just see a lot of people who are just like, it has nothing to do with me. It actually does, because your tax money went to this. Like they're using your money to do this, to fund terrorism. It's gross. So gross.
And then, I mean, just to prove almost like how inept this administration is, everyone, Biden and Kamala both, of course, were expected to say something about this attack, and they couldn't do it without prepared scripts. You guys, that is freaking pathetic. So here, first of all, is what Biden said when his team scrambled together to put together a script for him here. And then they're so obvious about it, the way that they read it. It's just absolutely pathetic.
Yeah. I've been spent the morning and part of the afternoon in the Situation Room and meeting with my whole national security team and consulting with the Israelis indirectly because in terms of their impact on us. And the national security team has been, as I said, in constant contact with Israeli officials and their counterparts, and it's going to continue to be brought to me throughout the day. We're still allowed to share updates, and when we get them, and we will do that.
There's just nothing genuine about this guy. And he's sitting there in an adult diaper reading that, like trying so hard to read it. What a doof.
Oh my God. And then when Kamala read her statement, it was even worse somehow because she was reading it and it seems like she doesn't even understand what she's reading. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, tell me if this, inspires confidence in any way.
Fully support President Biden's order for the U.S. military to shoot down Iranian missiles targeting Israel effective. And this operation and successful cooperation saved many innocent lives. As I have said, I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself against Iran and Iran-backed terrorist militias. My commitment to the security of Israel is unwavering. And let us be clear, Iran is not only a threat to Israel, Iran is also a threat to American personnel in the region, and we will continue to work with our allies and partners to disrupt Iran's aggressive behavior and hold them accountable. Thank you.
She has no idea what she's reading. No idea what she's reading. If Iran's a threat, then why do you give them money? Why does anybody just cut them off?
Yeah.
This is the thing. Why is this hard?
Bit of a trip down memory lane to see how we got here. Yeah. But first, just check out how KJP responded to the questions about, hey, maybe it wasn't such a great idea to take away sanctions from Iran. And she tries to say that they haven't, which is just a flat out lie.
And obviously we saw what happened today. They've also have an active plot to assassinate one of the candidates in the U.S. election, which could be seen as a direct election interference. Is there any talk of consequences for Iran in terms of limiting their revenue, going after their oil exports?
So look, you heard Jake speak to this on what there will be consequences. You heard Jake say this. This is an ongoing situation. He had to get back to his desk to make sure that he continues to monitor what's occurring, having conversations with his counterparts as well in Israel. But this administration has not lifted a single sanction on Iran. We cannot forget that. Rather, we continue to increase pressure. That's what we have seen. Our extensive sanctions on Iran remain in place, and we certainly will continue to enforce them. And you heard from the National Security Advisor. You heard what he said today.
Iran's oil exports have reached record levels now. One report showing 3.2 million barrels per day, according to OPEC. That's about $90 billion a year. So when do we cut off that revenue?
We have not lifted a single sanction. If anything, as I said moments ago, we increased pressure.
How can she say that out loud?
Doing.
How can seriously? Nobody pushes back. Where's Juicy? He's the only one that would push back on that. He obviously wasn't in the room because that was complete and utter bullcrap. What she just said, she was lying.
I mean, the total lie is flipping to find the right page in her stupid binder. My God.
And people believe her.
I know. It's amazing. Amazing. And so now the question is, what will Israel do in response? So Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg was on Fox News to talk about his prediction for what happens from here.
Netanyahu has basically said to the world, they said to the United States, we've given you repeated opportunities to bring this thing to a conclusion, to shut this down. And the world has turned another eye. They've said no. I think he's going for the kill. And what I mean by that, he's going to respond quite forcefully. And I think if I was Iran right now, I'd say I think where he'd probably end up going, he's going to make a real key shot. He's either going after nuclear facilities or he's going after the supreme leader. And that's going to set everything in motion for a much wider war in the Middle East. But I think they've just said, the Israelis have said, we're done with this, enough. The same thing they've done with Hezbollah, same thing they did with Hamas. And, you know, to be very candid with you, Sandra, you know, it's probably about time. This is time it needs to be brought to some type of conclusion. If we're not going to help them conclude it, then they're going to have to do it on their own.
Yeah, quit poking the bear, man. Like, and then what's going to happen is they're going to be like, well, they're fighting back too hard.
Right.
I mean, I can already see it now. Like when they do come back with the fury, which they will, and they should, Israel's going to come back and they're going to hit them hard. People are going to be like, oh my God, they're hitting too hard. I mean, why are they doing? They're so mean. Israel's so mean, you guys. They're so mean. They're fighting back too hard. Just wait for it. You know, you're going to see that.
Well, and Glenn Greenwald, who he can be very, very right, but then he can also be very, very wrong. And so he and I are in the middle of a fight right now, which I was surprised that he responded to me. But he tried to tweet something about how Israel is going after civilians by hitting all of these non-military targets, which is utter bullcrap. And his rash. And I said that. I was like, this is nonsense. Israel goes after precise targets, and it is not their fault that those targets embed themselves in the homes of civilians.
Exactly.
And he says that is a lie. Israel's Mossad headquarters are like in the middle of Tel Aviv. And I'm like, you're comparing the building headquarters being in a city to Hamas using actual schools as a place to shoot weapons from? How are you even comparing the two? Like, I could not believe it. Mm-hmm. I don't know how Israel tolerates much more of that, and I don't think they're going to.
And I don't want them to.
And I don't want them to either.
Don't. Why do you continue? I mean, it's like somebody who just gets beaten up and beaten up and beaten up day after day. At some point, it's like, enough is enough, man.
Yeah.
Fight back with the fury.
Yeah. And then, when Iran hit, despite the fact that they shot off, I don't even know how many hundreds of missiles, their success rate, not so great. So 5 IRG forces were killed, at least 12 injured in their explosion of one of the ballistic missiles during launch. 0 Israelis were killed in those missile strikes.
Wow.
1 Palestinian was killed. 5 Iranians were killed. So nicely done, you idiots.
Yeah.
God. And then this guy, you can't see him, but there's a guy, the Palestinian that got killed is literally underneath that missile. So nicely done, Iran. Good job there.
Wow.
My God.
Mm-hmm.
And then the freaking head of the UN tweeted out the most ridiculous stuff saying, I condemn the broadening of the Middle East conflict with escalation after escalation. This must stop. And Israel was like, we condemn your inability to string together a tweet which holds Iran responsible for firing 181 ballistic missiles at 10 million Israeli civilians.
There's always a double standard, man.
God, I'm so sick of that.
I know. I'm sick of this shit too. It's like there's always a double standard. It's always like you can fire as many missiles as you want at Israel, but the minute Israel fights back, it's too much. It's too much. What is wrong? God. Just enough is enough, man.
Trump in a rage about it, saying, look at the world today. Look at the missiles flying right now in the Middle East. Look at what's happening with Russia, Ukraine. Look at inflation destroying the world. None of this happened while I was president.
He ain't wrong.
And, you know, you can always sum up the Biden-Harris administration's foreign policy on this particular matter with one word, as they like to point out themselves. Here they are.
What is your message to Hezbollah and its backer, Iran?
Don't. Don't.
Yeah.
Don't.
What's the message to Iran?
Don't.
As President Biden said, just don't.
Exactly. One word.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
It was very important to send a very clear message
Oh, it's clear.
to anyone who might seek to take advantage of the conflict in Gaza to threaten our personnel here or anywhere else in the region. Don't do it.
Oh, super scary. They're so
my
scary,
God.
you guys. And then Blinken yesterday, my favorite, when he's like, he called the attack inappropriate. I mean, listen, you would tell you would be worse and harder on a toddler biting another toddler at daycare. Then that guy is talking about a missile attack. Like,
Yes.
he's like, it was inappropriate. What kind of crap is that?
Oh my
I was
God.
like, I looked at my husband and I'm like, he called that I'm sorry, what? What kind of joke administration is this?